The story begins in a deserted forest where a postman had come to deliver a letter to an old house. He felt like someone was inside, but even after knocking on the door, there was no response. Just as he was about to leave, a horrifying scream echoed from inside. Driven by fear and curiosity, the postman ran to the window, which was covered with wooden planks. The scream came again, and without thinking twice, the postman put down his bag and tried to peek inside through the window. It was pitch dark inside. Nothing was visible, so he stepped back outside and reached into his bag to grab a torch. Now the story jumps 30 years ahead. That same forest has now become part of a youth camp where a few young people have come to overcome their digital addiction. This group includes Josiah, July, Anila, Burek, and Daniel, along with their guide, Ms. Aza. On the very first day, they were divided into groups and the jungle trekking began. After walking for a while, Joel felt the need to pee and went into the bushes, but when he returned, he saw the carcass of an animal on the ground. Frightened, he called everyone over. Guide Aza examined the wounds and guessed that it was the doing of a large carnivorous animal. However, she reassured everyone that she knew the forest well, and as long as they stayed with her, there was nothing to fear. Meanwhile, Josiah noticed a claw-like mark on a tree, but the moment blinked, it vanished. Old traumatic memories from childhood started resurfacing, chose to ignore it. As the sun began to set, everyone stopped at a spot and started setting up tents. Anila had no idea how to pitch a tent, so she asked Daniel for help and went to bathe by the riverside. As night fell, Ms. Aza lit a fire and everyone sat around it chatting. The atmosphere was light and relaxed. Suddenly a tall shadow passed by, startling everyone. Ms. Aza, taking responsibility, went in that direction with a stick. A little while later, she returned and informed everyone that it was just a small fox. However, the mood had now become slightly tense, so everyone went back to their tents. But later that night, Daniel quietly slipped out of his tent and went to the riverside, where he started blowing smoke rings. Soon, Anila also arrived there. Their eyes met and a conversation began. Then Anila took out a balloon and Daniel immediately understood what was about to happen. Meanwhile, a short distance away in the forest, an old woman was dragging the corpse of an animal toward the basement of an old house. But what's this? Due to her age and weakness, the elderly woman herself fell into the basement along with the animal's corpse. The camera now turns to the dark basement where the woman lies unconscious. Suddenly, a hand slowly reaches out and drags the animal's corpse inside. Moments later, terrifying sounds of bones being crunched start coming from inside, waking the old woman. As soon as she opens her eyes, a shadow is seen going up the stairs. On the other side, Daniel and Anila's chat had come to an end. Anila, tired, went back to her tent, but Daniel couldn't sleep. He took out a hidden mobile phone and started chatting. He was so absorbed in the conversation that he didn't notice someone slowly approaching him from behind. By the time he sensed it, it was already too late. He tried to run, but the mysterious creature, in a fit of rage, picked him up and smashed him against a tree. Daniel died on the spot. The next morning, the guide Aza found out that Daniel was missing. Anila mentioned that she had seen him near the river at night. Everyone set out to search for him, but there was no trace of Daniel. Meanwhile, Josiah noticed bloodstains on the bark of a tree. He called everyone over, but Guide Aza dismissed it, saying it wasn't blood, but the tree's natural sap and there was nothing to be afraid of. After returning to the camp, Aza decided that she would go search for Daniel along with Josiah and Yule, while Aniela and Bart would stay back at the camp in case Daniel returned, so he wouldn't feel alone. Joel didn't like this idea. He said that in horror movies, whenever the group splits up, someone always ends up dying. But Aza didn't believe in such things. According to her, if someone is missing, it's her duty to find them. After walking a short distance, they saw an old house. Normally, it would be wrong to enter private property without permission. But out of concern for Daniel, they all went inside. When no one responded to their knocking, they opened the door and entered. July was hesitant at first, but he felt like someone was standing behind him, and out of fear, he too stepped inside. The atmosphere inside the house felt strange, but they didn't find any solid clues. Just then, an old phone started ringing from the basement. Aza lifted the wooden flooring and began to descend. Josiah went down with her. What they saw down there shocked them both. Daniel's corpse was lying there, his face covered in blood. Just as they started climbing back up, they heard footsteps coming from above. Julik, terrified, ran toward the stairs, while Josiah and Isa remained in the basement. Eventually, all three hid downstairs. The scene inside was so horrifying that Julik was about to vomit, but Isa quickly covered his mouth and gestured for him to stay quiet. Footsteps could now be heard approaching from above. The next moment, the wooden planks lifted and a terrifying creature appeared. Isa showed courage. She broke a window and first helped Josiah escape through it. Then she helped Julik, proving in that moment what it truly meant to be their guide. Just as Josiah and Julik were about to leave the basement, Daniel's phone suddenly rang. Isa ran to pick it up, and in doing so, missed the perfect chance to escape. Then horrifying screams echoed from the basement. Meanwhile, Burek and Anila were still sitting near the camp, chatting about life. They had no idea about the chaos Josiah was facing. Suddenly, Burek sensed something strange. When he looked behind him, he was horrified. He ran for his life, but that strange creature grabbed Aniela and hurled her into the bushes. Aniela died on the spot. Burek ran wildly and somehow reached an old church, where he met a priest. In panic, he told the priest everything, but the priest assumed Burek was under the influence of some drug. He said, "Son, there's been a storm here for the past 2 days. Even the mobile towers are down." The priest gave him some water and tried to calm him down. But just then, the church's telephone rang. Burek looked at it, startled, and then everything went dark. When Burek regained consciousness, he found himself tied up with ropes. The priest was now in a completely different, sinister form. There was a strange gleam in his eyes, and his intentions seemed terrifying. Just as he was about to reach Banti, a loud noise echoed outside the church. He became alert and went out to check, only to find that the old wood-cutting machine had turned on by itself. When he went closer to inspect, there was no one in sight. Suddenly, someone came from behind and pushed into the machine. With the father's screams, his end came swiftly. The machine stopped, and a pair of shoes dangled from the hands of that horrifying creature. Meanwhile, Bartek managed to free himself from the ropes. As soon as he peeked out the window, his face turned pale with fear. He quickly ran and hid inside a nearby cupboard. The next moment, that terrifying creature entered the room. Its nose could seemingly sniff out human scent. It headed straight for the cupboard, and Bartek's fate seemed all but sealed. On the other side, Josiah and Jules barely escaped the creature and managed to reach an old bungalow far away. An old man opened the door. His behavior was a bit odd. When Josiah asked to use a phone, the man said there was no phone here, only a gun. When Josiah asked if he had seen anything strange in the area, the old man took a deep breath and lifted the cuff of his pants. He had no legs. He revealed that he was none other than the postman who had once gone to deliver a letter to a hut in this forest years ago and never returned. That incident changed his life forever. He explained that the terrifying creature wasn't one person, it was 2 twin brothers, and then the real story began. About 30 years ago, a single mother came to live in a wooden house in this forest with her 2 sons. They all were living in poverty, but they were very happy. One day, while the 2 children were playing in the forest, they suddenly heard a loud noise from the sky. Something heavy crashed onto the ground, creating a crater. It was a meteorite, which the 2 brothers brought back home. That night, a strange liquid started leaking from the meteorite and got absorbed into both brothers' bodies. That liquid contained a mysterious virus that changed them from the inside. The next morning when the mother woke up, she realized the children weren't in the house. She saw bloodstains on the floor leading straight to the basement. Afraid, went downstairs, and what she saw made her soul tremble. The 2 children were in a strange condition. Their bodies were covered with boils and blisters, and they were eating the pet cat raw. Terrified by this sight, the mother locked the children in the basement from that day on and started sending food down every day. Time passed, and gradually, the mother's mental state also began to deteriorate. The postman revealed that this was the same woman who was last seen, and now she had been killed by her own children. Hearing this story, Josiah was stunned. She now realized that the terrifying creatures were actually those 2 children. She asked the postman how she could escape from there. The postman replied, "Even the nearest village is 2 days away. I have weapons and food. It's safer to stay here." But Josiah was no longer willing to stay. She felt that if she faced her fear, maybe something could be done. So, she decided to go back to the cabin and retrieve her friend Daniel's mobile phone. Sulik was with her, trembling with fear. But his feelings for Josiah were deeper, so he decided to go along. They both reached the hut. At that moment, the creature was inside. Sulik entered first as bait so that Josiah could sneak in. Josiah was impressed by his bravery and gave him her small knife and a sweet little kiss. Sulik was overjoyed. Perhaps it was the first time a girl had kissed him. He ran outside and started shouting loudly, "Come out. I'm going to teach you a lesson." As soon as he screamed, the terrifying creature came out and Josiah quickly slipped inside the hut. She managed to find the mobile phone, but just then the creature returned inside. She started to run in fear, but it was too late. The creature grabbed her by the neck and lifted her into the air. Just then, Zula came running and stabbed the creature in the back with a knife. But it had no effect. As if he had scratched a stone, the creature threw Josiah to the ground and snatched the knife from Zulek's hand, killing him with it. She opens her eyes and finds herself back in the same basement, chained with iron shackles. Zulek's body is lying nearby, barely breathing. Josiah quickly pulls out the mobile phone, but it's locked. She uses Zulek's hand for fingerprint unlock, but the phone's battery is already dead now. Josiah was completely broken when Jewel, who was almost drowned, pleaded with her to free her from the pain. Josiah didn't want to, but seeing Jewel's condition, she was compelled. She picked up a dagger lying nearby and ended. Meanwhile, upstairs, the twin brothers were present. One was injured and resting. The other had gone out in search of a new victim. Downstairs, Josiah used the dagger to cut her chains and freed herself. But just as she was about to leave, she looked at Jewel and made a big decision. Josiah quietly removed the wooden floorboards and peeked through. The terrifying creature was resting below. Without wasting time, she got out and slowly. She didn't hesitate at all. She went straight up to it and stabbed it in the chest. Then she immediately ran away from there. On the other side, a village policeman was spending time in the forest with a female friend. As soon as the woman left, the policeman started relaxing in his jeep. Suddenly, Josiah came running. When the police heard the full story, they quickly started the vehicle and set out with Josiah. But after going a little distance, their jeep collided with something. The police got out to see what had happened. Josiah tried to stop them, but they were stubborn. One of them said, "I'll go check," and walked in that direction. As soon as he turned back, the terrifying creature was standing right in front of him. The very next moment, the policeman met his end. Josiah ran to the driver's seat and tried to start the jeep, but it was as if the vehicle was following the director's orders. It just wouldn't start. Meanwhile, the creature climbed onto the vehicle and, holding a large hammer, smashed it against the windshield with great force. Thankfully, the vehicle was strong. The engine finally roared to life. Josiah slammed the accelerator and threw the creature off, but it didn't give up. Josiah put the vehicle in reverse and repeatedly crushed it, and then drove off. At last, she escaped from that terrifying forest. And with this, the story ends here. Subscribe to this channel for more horror stories like this.